Today we are out at the Granby Land Trust's Seth and Lucy Holcombe Preserve in North Granby. This property encompasses 151 acres featuring more than 3 miles of trails. The featured trail is just over 2¼ miles long, and there are a variety of other trails that crisscross the preserve to allow you to hike shorter or longer distances if desired. The parking lot for the preserve is located at 70 Silver Street, and the property kiosk and trailhead can be found at the end of the parking lot. Taking a look at the property map, the featured trail begins along the Orange Trail. Continue along the Orange Trail past the Orange and Blue Trail, and along the back loop until it reaches the intersection past the picnic table. At the intersection, turn right to follow the Blue Trail onto North Loop. Stay on the Blue Trail past Rosie's Field and the Big Field. At the intersection with the Red Trail, keep right to continue on the Blue Trail onto South Loop. When you reach the Orange and Blue Trail, turn right to follow this trail a short distance before once again meeting up with the Orange Trail, which takes you back towards the parking lot. The Land Trust's Seth and Lucy Holcombe Preserve honors the legacy and impact that Seth and Lucy Holcombe had on the town of Granby and the Granby Land Trust. They were both avid horsemen, caring for and breeding horses on their property, and the trails that were in the preserve today were created in part as riding trails for their horses. Seth and Lucy loved Granby and this property. They were outdoor enthusiasts and conservationists, and in 1993 they donated a conservation easement on their land to the Granby Land Trust to guarantee that it would remain forever natural as they knew it. In 2005, to honor their community service and dedication to the Granby Land Trust, Seth and Lucy were awarded the Mary Edwards Friend of the Land Trust Award, the Land Trust's highest honor. As Seth and Lucy had long planned to do, they bequeathed their entire Silver Street property, known as Thornbay Hill, to the Land Trust upon Lucy's passing in 2016. Through this bequest, Lucy and Seth also created a stewardship fund to help ensure the property's care and to help fund the preservation of additional land in Granby. Seth and Lucy were modest people who left a small footprint on the planet and who, through their actions and generosity, created an incredible legacy of conservation and land preservation. The Seth and Lucy Holcombe Preserve Trail begins by proceeding up a gradual incline along the straight orange blaze. The trail almost looks like going through a tunnel through the forest, as the dense trees and brush surround the trail on either side. This trail takes you through a forest that has an abundance of tree species, including large white pines, hemlocks, oaks, and hickories. In the late summer and fall, the trail is littered with pine cones of white pines, acorns, and hickory nuts. These nuts and seeds provide a source of food for the wildlife located in the preserve. Off to the right of the trail, there are 2 old pieces of farm equipment that bring back memories of a time when this land was actively farmed. The fields and forests to the right of the Orange Trail are also Granby Land Trust property, known as the Ann Pelka Silver Street Preserve, providing an additional 33 acres of abutting preserved land. This trail is lined with large trees including shagbark hickories, white pines, and sugar maples, and as these trees fall out from the canopy, gaps in the forest occur, creating pockets of dense vegetation of mainly birches, maples, and other shrubs. These pockets let sunlight reach the forest floor, helping to create a diverse habitat within the forest. If you are exploring this preserve in the summer months, you will be sure to hear the flute-like songs of the wood thrush that nest within the forest. These birds require large areas of intact forest to nest, which is exactly what the Seth and Lucy Holcombe Preserve provides. Hiking along the trails in this preserve, you will be sure to hear the high-pitched chirp of the chipmunks as they watch you walk down the trails. These small mammals are very abundant in the preserve, and they eat the nuts and seeds that are dropped to the forest floor from the trees above. The floor is also home to eastern gray squirrels and red squirrels, which eat and store the abundance of food in the forest. The forest of the Seth and Lucy Holcombe Preserve is made up of a diversity of live and dead trees. While these dead and decaying trees may look messy, these trees are actually vital to the health of the forest. The decaying logs provide a home and food source for insects, which in turn provide food for birds and mammals. The abundance of dead wood makes this preserve an especially good place to find many species of woodpeckers, which nest and forage for insects. These standing dead trees are vital to allow for nesting sites for these woodpeckers. Many of these trees are riddled with cavities by these amazing birds, and when these cavities are no longer used by woodpeckers, they are then able to be used by other animals of the forests, such as flying squirrels. As you continue down the trail, the white pines give way to oaks, birches, and hemlock trees. Chestnut oaks become a common tree in this area and can be identified by its thick, corky bark. Beech trees also become abundant as they are able to grow in the understory. These trees are suffering from beech leaf disease, however, which is identified by the light and dark striping on the leaves. As you continue down this section of trail, a careful ear may hear the light tapping of a yellow-bellied sapsucker high up in the trees. These woodpeckers are a little different from the other woodpeckers in the forest. Instead of making large cavities in the trees, these woodpeckers create a series of small horizontal holes along the bark of the tree. These holes are called wells, and they act to collect sap moving up and down just behind the bark of the trees. The sapsuckers then return to these wells to collect the sap and any insects that may be nearby. The Orange Trail meanders through a dense forest and follows a ridge with the forest gradually sloping down on either side. As the trail begins to descend, there is a vernal pool, a seasonal wetland to your left, which is surrounded by dense vegetation in the understory. If you walk this trail in April and May, you'll be treated with a symphony of spring sounds made by wood frogs and their friends. This area is a great spot to sit quietly and wait for mixed flocks of birds to move about foraging for seeds and insects. The wet area and the dense vegetation provide ample sources of food for the birds. During the spring and fall, a variety of birds can be heard and seen. These mixed flocks of birds often have a variety of species because there is often strength and protection in numbers for these little songbirds. Migrants moving through the area often search out the year-round residents of the forest, such as the black-capped chickadees and tufted titmice, because these birds know where to find food within the forest. As a result of this, these flocks can be composed of many species of warblers, vireos, nuthatches, creepers, and woodpeckers, all foraging together in close proximity. If you have ever been surrounded by mixed flocks of these birds, you know just how magical this experience can be. Continue heading down the trail into the wet section of the forest. A small stone path leads over an area that may get wet in the spring months, and as you continue uphill, you will walk through the first stone wall that you will encounter on this property. These stone walls are now used by small animals as homes, especially chipmunks. Continuing uphill out of the low section of the forest will take you to a small clearing with a picnic table, made with wood from a fallen tree from this property. This picnic table is near a large old white oak tree. This large tree is known as a wolf tree, with large, thick, low-hanging branches. These trees were once the only trees left on this landscape. However, now as the forest has regrown, these trees are just as large, but are now enclosed by the forest. These trees still play a dominant role within the forest, however, because these large trees with their large branches and hollows create a variety of nesting and perching sites for birds and animals. Wolf trees are now valued in the forest for providing vital resources and homes to forest animals. And in fact, wolf trees have been found to be used by wildlife disproportionately more compared to the average tree within the forest. These trees provide structural complexity within the forest that is desired and required by many species. The fact that this preserve contains many of these wolf trees plays a part in the abundance of the species found here. After you are done relaxing at the picnic table, continue along the trail through the forest. At the intersection, turn right to head onto the Blue Blaze Trail. This trail parallels another stone wall that runs through the forest and eventually crosses through it. This trail leads you down into another wet section of the forest, which is dense with mountain laurel and white pines growing in the understory. In the fall, the ferns and other vegetation in the understory change from a bright green to muted tones of oranges and yellows. As the leaves begin to fall, the sunlight is able to stream down through the canopy, making this forest especially beautiful this time of year. As you approach the intersection with the Green Trail, continue straight to remain on the Blue Trail onto North Loop. The dense understory of white pines allows for the ground to remain damp in this section of the forest, and creates a perfect atmosphere for a variety of fungus species to persist. The mushrooms that can be seen along the trail are the fruiting bodies of the fungus underground, and they are very important to maintain the health of the forest. You may notice that some of these mushrooms have been partially eaten or chewed on, and this is the chipmunks and squirrels that are in the forest. These little mammals play an important role in spreading the spores of the mushrooms, which in turn allows the fungus to spread underground. This network of fungus underground helps to allow trees to gather increased nutrients from the soil. The trail continues along and reaches Rosie's field. This field provides a nice vantage point to the distant hills below and can be filled with blooming wildflowers in the summer and fall. Looking closely into the forest to your left will reveal another stone wall that runs parallel to the trail, which is crossed through at the end of the field. The Blue Trail then leads to the largest field on the property, known as Big Field. This field is often filled with flowering plants, birds, and insects calling from within. A pair of eastern phoebes can often be seen foraging for insects among the field. If you visit in the fall, you may even be able to witness hawk migration in the sky above, as the birds of prey ride the thermals. Two Adirondack chairs are located along the eastern side of Big Field, along the Green Trail, to allow for a great spot to sit and take in the sights and sounds. Both Big Field and Rosie's Field offer fantastic vantage points all year long, with lovely fall color and nice views in the winter months when the leaves have fallen. Continue along the Blue Trail, keeping right at the intersection with the Red Blaze Trail. This section of the forest is dominated by white pines once more in the canopy, with a blanket of ferns in the understory. Progressing further along the trail and turning right onto the Blue and Orange Trail, you can see the forest increasing in age, as now the understory has many saplings growing up and competing for the available light. This is the forest's second growth of more shade-tolerant species such as birches and maples, and is known as the understory reinitiation and stem exclusion stages of the forest development. During this process, the saplings in the forest are all growing as fast as they can to compete with one another for the available light. Over time, the understory will thin out as the dominant trees win and the smaller trees die out. The Orange-Blue Trail dead ends and reaches the Orange Trail once more. Turn right to head back along the Orange Trail downhill through the forest tunnel. As you're walking back, you will be sure to hear and see chipmunks and squirrels still actively collecting and foraging for nuts and seeds. Birds will be likely heard and seen along the trail, adding to the calming effects of the forest. The featured trail concludes when you reach the parking lot. The Seth and Lucy Holcombe Preserve is a property that can be enjoyed in all seasons, with each season offering a unique experience. Spring can provide opportunities to see flowers and the forest turning a lush green during the summer months. In the fall, the leaves turn vibrant yellows, oranges, and reds, and during the winter, the forest is transformed into a winter wonderland with a fresh coat of snow. Thanks to the incredible generosity of Seth and Lucy Holcombe, this beautiful place is available to be enjoyed by all, immersing you in the calming world of nature and transporting you away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. We encourage you to take a moment when enjoying this spectacular preserve to think of Seth and Lucy and be grateful for all they've done for Granby. Thank you for your support of the Granby Land Trust, and be sure to take out what you pack in to help keep this preserve beautiful for years to come.